Alrighty, so today we're talking about submachine guns. Right now, SMGs appear to be a bit of a controversial topic when it comes to the Battlefield community, and so one of the first things that I wanted to do was sort of talk about the role of submachine guns and how I think that most people who are talking about this don't really know what they're talking about, which is something that tends to happen a lot on this channel. So my apologies if I come off as like an arrogant prick who's like, I'm always right and everyone else is wrong. But I've been playing games for ages and ages and ages, and when I see people that are just talking about things that don't know what they're talking about, I feel almost obligated to correct them, or at least try to explain to them the design decisions that were being made here and the reasons why things are the way they are, rather than just complaining about it without any sort of backing. As usual with these videos, I'm going to have timestamps in the description, and it will be on your playhead that you can move around, so if you don't care about my explanation about all of this stuff and you just want to skip to the tier list, go ahead, it'll be down there. Regardless, the major complaint that I've seen over and over again about submachine guns in Battlefield 6 is the fact that you can just full auto these things at basically any range and take people out from much longer ranges than people think you should be able to use a submachine gun for. But the thing is that there's very good reason for why you're capable of doing that, and it really comes down to the balance between different weapon archetypes and the way that they work, especially based off of damage ranges. The reality is that there's a lot of things to consider when you're creating a weapon in a first-person shooter and trying to make sure that it remains viable in different situations. And in a game like Battlefield, there are a lot of different situations you can get into, from fighting someone who's literally 250 meters away shooting at you with a sniper rifle versus someone 2 meters away shooting you with a shotgun. And in games like these, you only have so much room to work with in terms of accuracy, shots to kill, recoil, etc. And so the role that submachine guns fill is generally very simple. They have low recoil and low spread, but their damage falls off significantly quicker than any other weapon in pretty much the entire game. Some of the carbines might be able to give a few of these submachine guns a run for their money, but regardless, if you're fighting someone at longer ranges, you're going to need to hit them several times. In terms of a lot of the submachine guns that we're going to be talking about today, they can take anywhere from 3 shots up close to 8 shots at further ranges to take somebody out. Something that just isn't going to happen at any range with an LMG or an assault rifle. So for all of the people who are clamoring to increase the spread on submachine guns or make them have more recoil, I then ask you, what place would they serve in the game if it took them significantly more bullets to kill at further ranges, the same amount of bullets than most assault rifles at closer ranges, and they also didn't have the benefit of being able to full auto to try to make up for the fact that they need to hit people with so many bullets further out. Sure, SMGs are made to be used up close, but the reality of the day is that there are a lot of guns in the game that up close can still beat out submachine guns, whether it be because of a fast fire rate and a 4-shot kill, or in a lot of cases things like the 3-shot kill weapons, which can just outright shit on some of the SMGs up close because they take so many bullets to kill. Anyways, the end-all be-all is, if you couldn't tell already, I don't think that the submachine guns need any sort of blanket nerf. I don't think that the category as a whole is even remotely overtuned, and I think I've got a relatively decent authority to say that, considering that I've almost certainly used more weapons in this game than 99.9% of players. I mean, come on, let's be real here. How many people out there do you think can actually say that they've gotten over half of the weapons in the game almost up to level 20? Anyways, with that out of the way, let's kick off the tier list and start actually talking about shit that matters. Or I guess in this case, shit that doesn't matter, because the first 2 guns that I'm going to be putting on the tier list at the bottom are pretty much tied with each other, and these are the SL9 and the UMG-40. It's funny because these 2 guns fill the exact archetype that people complain about the most, which means that people are probably going to be upset with the placements of these weapons on this tier list. But the reason that I decided to do both of them at the same time is because these 2 guns are extremely similar, with only very slight variations between the 2 that might make you pick one over the other. The most notable, of course, is the fact that the SL9 has an ever so slightly faster fire rate than the UMG-40, and the fact that the SL9 can get a 60-round magazine, which is a little bit ridiculous. Now, ordinarily, that would probably make you immediately think that the SL9 is just a better gun, but you have to take into consideration the fact that the SL9 has more spread and a faster damage fall-off than the UMG-40 does, along with the fact that that 60-round magazine that I was talking about that might make this worth using over the UMG-40 isn't unlocked until super late, which is its own problem. Now, going forward, I'll mostly just be talking about these guns as one entity because, like I said, they're so unbelievably similar that they're basically the same gun with very, very minor differences. Anyways, the role of these weapons is a slow fire rate SMG that you can use to poke people to death at much further ranges than you would probably expect from a submachine gun. As I already mentioned, this is basically the exact gun archetype that people are complaining about right now when it comes to submachine guns, which is a bit of a shame considering that these two guns really are not very high performers. They're easy to use, that much is definitely true, but in terms of getting results, yeah, they're not it. The main problem here is, of course, the fact that you're using a submachine gun with a low rate of fire, and that in of itself is a huge problem. Up close, the guns can get a 4-shot kill, but that 4-shot kill does not last very long. And because of that, it's going to drop very quickly to a 5, then a 6, then a 7-shot kill, and at that point, if you're fighting against an assault rifle or an LMG or a carbine, you're just going to absolutely get dumpstered. That's the reality of the day. What I'm getting at here is up close, you're going to lose most of your fights because of the low rate of fire of the weapons, and when you get to further out ranges because of the damage fall off, once again, you're going to continue losing a lot of head-to-head engagements. Of course, the one advantage that you do get here is at those further ranges, you can kind of just hold down the trigger, and as long as you're accurate, if the other person is missing shots, you'll have the leg up on them, and that's nice. And the one other thing that I do have to mention about the UMG-40 and the SL9 is the existence of synthetic ammo. This is something I didn't bring up on the AK-205, and a bunch of people got mad at me for it, and I guess rightfully so in that sense. I still hate that gun to death, but it's something I should have mentioned, and I will be mentioning it here. Synthetic ammo is a gun attachment that they give to a lot of the underperforming guns in this game, and that's something that I've noticed very quickly. Usually, if a gun doesn't look like it's going to be very good, it has the potential of getting synthetic ammo. If you don't know what the synthetic ammo does, it increases the headshot multiplier by a significant amount. In BF6, there are two different headshot ammos, the hollow point ammo and the synthetic ammo. All you really need to know about these things is that the hollow point ammo is borderline useless and a complete waste of points, and the synthetic ammo is generally really good, especially if you can hit headshots. The reason for this is on basically every gun that it's on, the hollow point ammo is going to require you to get 2 headshots in an engagement in order to lower the shots to kill by 1, whereas the synthetic ammo, you only need to get 1 headshot in order to lower the shots to kill by 1, which decreases your time to kill drastically. So obviously running the synthetic ammo on an accurate gun like the UMG-40 and SL9 is pretty much a no-brainer, but as per usual, these gun attachments are unlocked very late, which means you have to suffer through using this gun for a long time before you can get the one attachment that really makes it worth a damn, and at that point you just have to start asking the questions of, why am I even bothering with this? The simple answer is, you shouldn't. The slower firing, hard-hitting assault rifles and carbines are kind of just better, and so these guns aren't super great. To be honest, going forward, the SMG category fares really well because anything outside of these bottom 2 guns is more than usable and super fun to use, so take that for what you will as we move forwards. In terms of the first gun that's going to go into the B tier, I have to give it to the USG-90. This weapon isn't anything special, but there is one really important thing about it, and that's the fact that you don't need any attachments to make this gun worth using, unlike pretty much every single other weapon in the game. It's a blessing and a curse, because the gun on its own isn't anything fantastic. Its damage profile completely lacks a 4-shot kill, which means that you need 5 shots to kill someone at the bare minimum, which, as you can probably guess at closer ranges, means that you're going to get dumpstered on by a lot of the other submachine guns that we're going to be talking about, along with a lot of the assault rifles, a lot of the carbines. Yeah, you get the idea. But the thing that's really cool about the USG-90, and the main reason that it's not in the C tier, is once again the fact that you start off with basically everything you could ever need. The 50-round magazine is of course the biggest selling point here, because having more bullets is basically always better. And this is something that absolutely does help the gun a lot, because it might need 5 shots to kill, but you can put a whole lot of lead down range, and you don't need to spend a whole bunch of time unlocking extended mags or whatever that you would with other weapons. As I said, it's a blessing and a curse though, because a lot of those other weapons may start out feeling a little bit worse, but once you start unlocking stuff, they'll feel better and better, whereas this gun just sort of stays stagnant from when you first pick it up to when you're done using it. The real killer here though, in my opinion, is the fact that while you can deck this thing out with a whole bunch of attachments, since you don't need to spend a bunch of attachments on on extended magazines or anything like that. The only problem is that it's one of the underperforming guns that doesn't have the synthetic ammo, which would really help it. This is something that I highly doubt they'll ever do, but I think it's a buff that would help the gun tremendously to make it more competitive, as being able to put that on with the 50-round magazine would be great, but that's just not in the cards right now. Overall, the UMG-90 can get some work done. It's not anything absolutely fantastic, but if you hate grinding weapon attachments, this very well might be the gun for you, because you just pick it up and that's what you got. A tier is hands down the largest category on here, and first I want to start with the two clone guns that we have on the list, and those are the PW5A3 and the SGX. I say that these are clone guns because, once again, just like the SL9 and the UMG-40, these weapons are extremely similar. They have a borderline identical damage profile, but with the PW5 having an overall lower fire rate. The trade-off here being that the PW5 is not only a fair bit more accurate than the SGX, but it also has access to the synthetic ammo that I talked about earlier, whereas the SGX doesn't. This is a killer because the PW5 already on its own is a very good gun, and generally speaking, synthetic ammo is only given to underperforming guns, and here's a gun that doesn't underperform that gets the synthetic ammo. The thing is that even with the synthetic ammo, a lot of the time the SGX is still going to beat it out at closer ranges simply by the factor of the rate of fire alone. But I can absolutely see people making arguments for one or the other of these weapons, and I think both of those arguments are fair, and I wouldn't really argue against either of them. It's really a matter of preference on whether or not you like to have a more accurate weapon that you can shoot over longer ranges without having to rely on tap fire like you do on the SGX, versus playing a lot more tighter and in close quarters where the SGX is going to win you more fights than the PW5 is. So that's my piece on those weapons. If you're more of a close range player, I'd go SGX, and if you end up playing at further ranges but you still want to have an SMG for those close quarters encounters, PW5's the way to go. Now, the next gun on the list is probably going to be kind of controversial, and that's the PW7A2. I say this is going to be controversial because this gun is, statistics-wise, it's kind of ass. This is definitely my AK-205, so for all of the people out there who are AK-205 enjoyers who heard me talk a whole bunch of shit about the AK-205, you are welcome to go to the comment section and give me as much shit as you want to about this gun, because in reality it probably shouldn't be here, but I love it to death, so I can't not. The PW7 has a very fast fire rate at 947, but the big problem here is, of course, the fact that this gun requires a bare minimum of 7 bullets to kill up close. Yeah, that's usually not looking pretty. As you can probably guess, against a lot of the submachine guns, you're gonna get rocked at close range. But the thing is that this gun starts to really kick some ass at the medium and longer ranges, and this is basically the staple example of the guns people get mad at in terms of the SMG category, with also probably not understanding the stats on it. It's easy to look at gameplay and ask why can you kill people from there, but it's harder to ask, well, you had to hit them with like 9 bullets in order to kill from that distance, whereas an LMG would take 4 or 5. Anyways, the PW7 is a bit of a struggle to use because of how many bullets it takes to kill until you get the 40-round magazine, which is where things really start to look up and get significantly better. Once again, if you're accurate, being able to just beam people full auto from very far distances away feels fantastic, and it's just super fun to mess with. And the fast rate of fire up close means that, once again, as long as you're hitting your shots, you can still keep it somewhat competitive, but if you're going to run up into 3-shot guns like the SG553 or the SCW10 that we'll be talking about in just a minute here, yeah, you're gonna start to struggle and you're probably gonna get your ass whooped. The gun also is one of those weapons that has the synthetic ammo, which can be really helpful. It's something that's unlocked really late, so late in fact that even though I have this weapon all the way up until level 37, I still don't have it. If I remember correctly, I think it's unlocked at 39, and the synthetic ammo would definitely help this gun substantially, as its overall time to kill in a lot of the situations that you're going to be fighting in is comparatively low to a lot of the other submachine guns and just guns in the game. But overall, the gun's definitely got its trade-offs, it's got its strengths, it's got its weaknesses, but I really enjoy it, and so that's why I put it here. Now, in terms of guns that I don't really enjoy, and something that I'm a little bit soul-crushed that I don't enjoy, and that's going to be the KV9. This is something that for the longest time I really thought I would be putting into S tier, especially as I unlocked more attachments for it, but once I actually did, I just couldn't do it. The KV9 is by no rights a bad gun. The thing's an absolute bullet hose, shooting at the fastest fire rate in the game of 1080. And the fact that it has a 4-shot kill means that it has the second fastest time to kill in the entire game if you're up close. The main problem with the KV9 though is the fact that this thing falls off hard. It's probably unsurprising to hear that the gun has a shitload of bullet spread and a shitload of recoil comparatively to basically any other submachine gun. And because of that, trying to take people out from further ranges is very difficult. You are borderline required to tap fire to take people out from further ranges with this gun, and trying to tap fire people while also having to hit that many bullets is a death sentence against guns that can tap fire and kill you and lay less bullets, or submachine guns like the PW7 or PW5 that can full auto you from those ranges and is probably going to kill you before you can tap fire them down because of how low damage you do. The real killer for the KV9 though is its magazine capacity, something that frankly I think they screwed up on, and I highly doubt they'll ever reverse course on, but I hope someday maybe they do. Leveling this gun is a nightmare, with the game starting you with a 17-round magazine, which for a gun like this is unacceptably small. It is very difficult to get one kill, never mind more than one kill, on a 17-round mag. And the damage fall off and stuff is so brutal on this weapon that once again having that low ammo capacity is debilitating while trying to level it. It doesn't even reload that fast either, so you feel like you're playing Reload Simulator all the time. Meanwhile, you just can't compete with a lot of the guns in the game. But it really doesn't get that much better, because while unlocking the 23-round magazine is basically like night and day, once you get the 27-round magazine, it's absurdly expensive in terms of attachment points, costing you 45 points for just the magazine. This hurts you a lot because it means that you can't really mod out the rest of the gun to try to compensate for the spread and recoil. But the 27-round magazine is all but required on this weapon. The reason being that if you're going to run into fights with more than one person, you need those extra bullets. They matter a lot. Sure, in one-on-one engagements, you can get away with using the 23-round magazine all the time and just reloading after every kill. But Battlefield is not a game where you're going to run into one person at a time. It just isn't. So you need all of those bullets, and it's not even up to 30 rounds. Overall, I ended up getting the KV9 all the way up to level 42, and even over there, I just couldn't get myself to really start enjoying it, which is a shame. We have DLC attachments coming, so maybe someday we'll get a drum magazine or something for this gun, and suddenly it will be a lot more fun to use, but in its current state, it just doesn't feel great, and I can't really recommend leveling it unless you're a huge fan of the Vector in real life, or you just like bullet hoses. I do think it earns its A rank spot though, because once again, up close this is going to shred basically anyone. You can just sort of hip fire people to death and it's going to slaughter them because of how fast it shoots. It's definitely on an objective level a good gun if you can get used to it, but the amount of time it takes to get there is brutal, and even when you do, there's a gun on this list that blows it out of the water, so let's talk about that gun. The singular S-tier SMG is the SCW-10, and this thing is fucking broken. No way around it. If there's any weapon in the entire game that people have a right to complain about and point to and say, this is overpowered, it's definitely the SCW-10. And if this thing doesn't get nerfed, I would be baffled. Obviously, starting off, it has a 3-shot kill, which already puts it above so many other guns. Having a 3-shot kill in this game is hugely valuable. Thing is, though, that the 3-shot kill is not the only thing that the SCW-10 is working with. It also benefits from not nearly as bad of a damage falloff as the KV9 does, allowing you to continue to fight people reliably at further ranges than that gun can. But also, despite the fact that it technically has less ammo because it's not a bullet hose, getting the 25-round magazine for this gun feels like more than enough ammo. And getting it up to that 25-round magazine is also not nearly as difficult. The starting magazine of 15 is shitty, but it's not nearly as shitty as it is in the KV9. Overall, what this gun actually feels like in practice is more of a very hard-hitting assault rifle up close that loses damage a little bit faster than those assault rifles would, but is still capable of full autoing people out to very far distances. And so really, if you're looking for the boogeyman that everyone's upset about, it realistically is this gun. It's going to crush a lot of weapons at medium and even longer ranges, and it's going to super crush them up close with them standing absolutely no chance. I mean, literally, this gun has the fastest time to kill in the entire game. And so you would think with that, it would fall off very quickly and become less effective further out, but it just sort of doesn't. And so it has the best time to kill up close and continues to keep some of the better time to kills across the entire weapon category and the entire game out to longer ranges, which frankly is just stupid and it shouldn't do. This gun is absolutely brain dead. If you want a win button, this is one of the best guns in the entire game, and it really boils down to, do you want to suffer through using it a little bit until you can get those higher capacity magazines? And once you do, it's game over for pretty much everyone else. The SCW-10 is broken, and yeah, if there's one gun I fear in this game when I run up against it and I get frustrated, it's probably this one. Anyways, that's pretty much wrapping up the tier list for today. I think SMGs as a category probably fare better than a lot of the other categories in the game right now, and a lot of that likely stems from just the sheer amount of clone weapons in the category that aren't just objective worse versions of other guns. One of the big problems with some of the other weapon categories is they have guns that are so similar stat-wise, but the worst versions of those guns just aren't able to compete with the better versions, because even if they attempted to make them be more accurate or have less spread or whatever, because of tap firing and other metrics, they just can't compete. But here, with guns like the SGX and the PW5 being so similar, but just having their slight differences making one worth using over the other, or the SL9 and the UMG-40 being very similar in that regard, I could see reasons why people might pick one or the other, whereas in the other categories, something like the M4A1 versus the QBZ, you just sit there and you're like, well, the M4 is just better in basically every way, so yeah, I don't know why you'd be picking the QBZ. Yes, I'm taking more shots at you, QBZ guys. Regardless though, the SMG category is super fun. I highly recommend you give literally anything in this category a shot, even some of the things that I said weren't so good, because it might fit your play style even if I don't enjoy it. Pushing objectives with something like the UMG-40 might not go your way, but playing a longer range playstyle might, so who knows? Anyways, with that, I am wrapping up today's video. So naturally, if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.